So welcome back. We are running a few minutes late, sorry about that. And we're just waiting for two of our panellists to come back. And then we'll launch into this age-old debate about whether musicians should ever play for free. Just as a black and white question on its own, I know that it's quite difficult because it's actually a very complicated, complex, kind of grey area surrounding it. But if we had to ask that black and white question, if you're a musician, would you ever play for free? Can you raise your hand if you're a musician and you would ever play for free? Okay. And could you raise your hand if you wouldn't ever play for free? Okay. Right, so the majority is saying yes they would, and one or two people no they never would. So already we have a conflict there. Obviously I suspect most of you would say that it depends on what's on offer. Is that the case? Yeah? Nodding your heads. So yeah, if you think it depends, before I make a decision I'd need to know a lot more about it. Could you raise your hand? Yeah. Okay, most of you. All right, well, joining me today, I've got Sam Holloway, who is a promoter who has an agency as well called Unstrung Entertainment. He's promoted in lots of venues down in Torbay over the years and now has been promoting in Exeter for a while. And he's currently the entertainment manager at the new venue down on the Quay, the Tobacco House, where he programs all the music there. And next to him, we have highly esteemed musician Greg Hancock, who is from Exeter. I don't know if you're Exeter born and bred, Greg, or
not born, no.
Not born, but you've been here a while.
A while.
Yeah, and you've been on the gigging circuit for a while as well.
Not that long.
Okay.
Long time ago and recently.
Okay, so returned to it in more recent years. And Tom Matthews, who, and I should say that all three of them are musicians as well. Sam is a singer-songwriter, and so is Greg, and so is Tom. And Tom's been sort of playing for many years as well. And Tom has done a lot of promotion in and around Exeter for many years too. Can you just tell us a bit about where you're promoting at the moment, Tom?
At the moment, my brief is in and around Exeter. My pop-up record shop, which stocks over 200 Southwest-based artists, is called Exeter Local Records. But saying that, it does have stuff from the wilds of Totnes all the way down to Plymouth and all in between.
Okay, thanks.
And so I'm promoting here on Saturday, but also I have a regular gig at the Real Food Cafe, but also have worked at stuff at most venues in and around Exeter.
Yeah, because Tom's also a very good sound engineer as well. In fact, he's doing our sound today in the cafe bar. So you've worked with lots of venues in the area and been involved in promoting lots of gigs at different size venues, haven't you, Tom? Yeah. Okay, so let's launch into this discussion then. So what we want to do is look at this from all angles, okay? From the angle of the venue itself, the promoter who's kind of in the middle, the agent who's also in the middle, and the musician themselves. And to look at it from all perspectives, which I think we're quite qualified to do between us, because I sort of used to be a performing musician as well, and now I'm an agent, and I've also promoted lots of events. So I can look at it from all angles, as can the panel. So first of all then, what do we think is the main issue for venues when it comes to sourcing musicians to play in their venue? What would you say, Sam, are you looking for when you're seeking for bands to play at the Tobacco House?
Well, firstly, the criteria at Tobacco House is just upon as good a music as possible. So we try and steer clear of inexperienced bands, generally because it does cause some problems on the night. Secondly, we want to try, and we've got quite a big venue to fill. It's got a bigger capacity than this room, and we're looking for a band with some sort of following. Of course, the number one thing that ticks a box is you say, do you want to do a door deal? And the bands that say yes are immediately booked, and the ones that go, I'd rather pay for a fee, unfortunately that does then say, well, they're not confident that they have a crowd. Don't get me wrong, we do a lot of promoting, we push hard, harder than most acts that play for us, in fact, now. But that is the criteria. We like to have a good standard of music, really.
Yeah, so for the venue then, the bottom line is, obviously I want to at least break even with anything I'm putting on here. And if I'm paying an artist, 100, 200, 300 pounds, then I've got to really make sure that I can recoup my costs. And am I confident that I can do that? Well, if I go online, I can get an idea of how big a following they've got maybe. I can, put ears out and try and kind of find out from other people how popular they are, that sort of thing. So you need to be fairly confident to offer a fee if you're a venue, otherwise you're going to start losing money very quickly. If you're putting on 3-4 gigs a week, as a tobacco house does, even more, and you're losing a couple of £100 a night, then you can see you'd soon go out of business. So from the venue's perspective, they need to feel confident that a musician can bring along a decent following who will either pay on the door or spend money behind the bar to recoup those costs. In terms of a promoter, Tom, what do you think are the issues for promoters when deciding who to put on and where to put it on, and how people are going to be paid and that sort of thing?
It's very difficult, and I agree entirely with what Sam said. With my gigs, people often approach me and say, we're not fussed if we get paid or not, but that's not what I'm trying to do. What I do is I try and guarantee a fee for the artist. However, that includes challenges for the venue. With my Real Food Cafe gigs, we had a guarantee initially, and on one particular date before Christmas, nobody bought any tickets, and the cafe pulled it. Now, I had no doubt about the musicianship, and they were immediately rebooked, but we had to switch to basically a split on the door, and I said to them, it's a split between you, and it's a split between me. You're good, and we'll do what you're asked to do. I'm good, and I will do what I'm asked to do. So then it's not, then it's in everyone's interest for the event to go well. What I've done with booking is I've stopped booking acts that aren't available through my pop-up record shop, which ties in with my branding, but it's also immediate no to anyone that doesn't have a product to tie in with my branding. That's an easy way just to say, no, I'm sorry. And usually the people who've got it together, the people who are good, have got a product, and that's just an easy one for me.
Okay, so if recordings do exist and they're done professionally, and they're out there, and you can incorporate them into your excellent records, then
yeah. It's just so difficult you've got to have a draw for an act. Yeah. They've got to be good, and I only book things that I think I like, and that helps a lot as well. Yeah. It helps me to be enthusiastic about it, and if they're amenable and willing to do a split, then that's really great.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Greg, so perspective from a musician's point of view, how would you say that in your time you've done more paid gigs or gigs that weren't paid?
I think now it's probably about 50-50.
Okay. And how do you feel about that?
I approach them differently for a start, but I think the free gigs for me have always been either done because it's personally fun for me, and that would include, for example, much more freedom on what I play, or it's a favour for a friend, or it's charity. Or it's part of an event that I want to be part of for some reason, which might include some festival or something like that, because I just want to be there. But I think everybody will make their own line on this, but mine is basically if somebody's putting on an event which ultimately the purpose of that event is to make somebody money, they shouldn't be exploiting me by not paying me. I mean, whether or not I can draw a crowd. I mean, to be honest, in a city like Exeter, there's a horde of amazing musicians. It's only a small town. It's only 120,000 people. On a Thursday night, you've got 20 gigs going on around town. Who can draw a crowd? I don't know anybody who can guarantee to draw a crowd. On a good day, if it was my birthday, I could invite 50 people and they'd all come. But, I can't guarantee that. And what I've always found is that, when I've played to an empty house, it's because the house has done next to no promotion. I haven't seen the promotion. I mean, people say we've put posters around. I've never seen one, and I go around town all the time. I talk to musicians all the time. They've never heard that I'm playing there. If it's not on that little network, how can I do anything more than that? And, there are some great venues to play, and I think a lot of them, feel that, musicians, we've all heard this sort of, well, we're giving you a place to play, we're giving you an opportunity to perform. Well, I've performed before, it's not new,
So there's a couple of issues here. One of saturation. You think that, and I would agree, that there are so many musicians out there, so many really good musicians out there, all over the UK and all over the world. And they all want to play, and so in some ways it's a buyer's market, because obviously venues, promoters have lots of bands and singer-songwriters pitch into them, and they've got to choose which ones they think will go down the best and make, or not make them some money, but in many cases just break even. Right, I don't want to hog the microphone because I do want this to be an interactive experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and give Holly this microphone, and I'll come and sit at the table instead behind a mic. And I'd just like anybody who would like to tell us why they would consider, any circumstances they would consider playing for free, and any circumstances they wouldn't consider playing for free. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak.
I agree that some of my favourite gigs have been ones that I didn't get paid for, so I think there is some truth in that. And I've forgotten what else I was going to say, but I think the pulling the crowd thing is a really relevant issue, because I think there is a recession and it is really hard to get people to come to a gig, especially if you're pulling on friends and fan base every time. They can't come to every gig. You can't put pressure on them to do that. And, you're kind of playing it cool and, I'm just putting it out there sort of thing. And to guarantee seats, is actually really difficult, I think.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to respond to that or bring up a different point?
I'd say I would definitely play a free gig if it's a gig that I would want to go to as just to attend it. So if it's a band that I love and that I've heard before, or if it's a venue that's just starting out and I'm confident that venue is going to promote the gig as much as I do and actually properly make an effort to get the word out, and I know that they haven't got a massive budget, then I'll be happy to play that.
Right, you say, if they haven't got a massive budget, so if you suspected that venue or promoter was going to be making significant profits from that gig, would you then feel differently about being asked to pay for free in there?
I'd say that if I knew that the promoter was going to make massive profits out of it, I'd want to get a certain percentage of that profit.
And would you play if they said no? Would you still play?
That profit? I'm not sure really. I think it's a bit cheeky of a promoter to be making a profit and still not give any to the band, because it's just as much, the band taking part in this event as the promoter putting it on, But also if it's a charity event, then you've got to do it for free, really.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think if it's a venue that's starting out and I know that they haven't got very much money, then I'd say that's a good.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else want to chip in there at the back there? Just while we're getting the microphone back there. I think all these grey areas are starting to come out, and it's how you pick and choose. You said charity events, but also what about community events? Because many promoters do feel the reason they put on events is because they feel passionate about music, and lots of promoters are also musicians themselves, and that's why they do it. So it's distinguishing, I think, between those kinds of promoters who are passionate about music and do it from the heart, and the kind of promoters that maybe are sort of up here somewhere and all about the profit. At the back, Chris.
Thanks. Swamp Gods do play for free on the right occasions. Sorry, is there a chuckle down there? You knew I had to say that, didn't you? But I think the thing is important. Everything that people have said is absolutely applicable. I think if you get the feeling you're going to be exploited, I think we would not play that. But I think it's about exposure. If we can play a gig, we know we are not going to get paid for it, but we have an opportunity to sell CDs, to talk to people, if it's a high-profile venue, if there are other benefits to us as a band, not just the money, we'll take that into consideration as well. looking at it as a kind of a longer-term plan. And I think, in the longer term, it is important to consider all of the different aspects of it, not just the money. I think I certainly wouldn't want to play every gig for free, absolutely not, because I think as a musician, we put a lot of time, effort, energy, money into it. So I think that if that is what we do, or one of the many things that we do, it is only right, I think, if there is money being made, that we have a proper proportion percentage of that. But I think it is a complicated issue, and I think that as a band, as a musician, you have to weigh up all of these different aspects and decide. I think perhaps even on a kind of case by case basis, which I think is what we do. Whether it's right for you in that circumstance. But I think in terms of exploitation, absolutely not.
Okay, thanks. There was someone just
Murray,
down...
can I make a point?
Yeah,
just quickly. I just wanted to say on that. I mean, it just seems that somewhere along the line has sort of, a balance has gone the wrong way to me, where it's sort of, putting on an event is going to include all sorts of costs, right down from bouncers on the door to electricians to toilet cleaners to cooks to bar staff to everything else. And yet, we're the star of the show and we don't get paid. Everybody else is getting paid.
I find that issue a big problem, and the difficulty for me as a promoter is often there's a glass ceiling on what people are prepared to pay for a quality act, and that is really difficult. I was saying about an event that got cancelled recently. Incidentally, I also put the price on the door up by £1. Now, this is a really good... I think it's a good event, otherwise I wouldn't bother doing it. It's got a high-quality bespoke PA that I bring in for the event, which costs probably £4,000 plus to replace. This is a really limited venue, so there's only like 44 seats that we ever dare sell, a few extra stragglers, you know how it is. But even with that, even when I sell out, it's not entirely viable. The cafe staff do get paid. I put a nominal amount, something between £0 and £30 towards them, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on how it goes, but they do expect a few pence back to their bar staff because there's more than one of them and they have to get paid. And the managers of the venue, the management of the venue that aren't necessarily at the events have looked at the finances and saying, why do we do this? We don't make any money on it. So the venue don't make money on it, but neither do I make enough money on it to reinvest in the equipment that I provide for it. Mostly they sell out, but if I put the price up by £1, even our established audience, which we have regular return buyers for tickets, may not turn up. And I don't know if that date was a particularly bad date. I was quite pleased that it cancelled in the end because I had a Saturday night off and it rained really hard. But, there's a price ceiling and there's lots of logistical costs that go into putting an event on, which, the artist is definitely one of them. I really try in what I do to give them what I can, but I also can't afford to cut myself out of the equation. And I usually find at the end of the gig that I've put an extra £5 in the artist wing that really should have covered my printing. And if I'm out of pocket for printing, then I'm out of pocket.
Yeah, I feel your pain, Tom. I've been there on many occasions promoting events, but I just want to go back to one point Greg made about the production costs around an event and how, everyone else gets paid sometimes apart from the artist, and consider why that is, because I think that's an argument I've seen over and over and over again on the internet. And, I used to think, in black and white terms, oh yeah, that's not fair. But then if you think about it, what we were saying about saturation, the fact that there are so many musicians out, if we compare it to plumbers, for example, all right, you wouldn't expect a plumber to come to your house for free to fix your whatever in the middle of the night. And that's because plumbers are in quite short supply. And they probably don't really have a passion for what they do as a living, you know what I mean? Whereas musicians are different because, as we said, the market is kind of saturated and there are always people willing to play for free. And therefore, that's, I think, the reason why often the musician is the last person to get paid. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, I'm just saying that's probably how it is.
It's sort of become that way.
And what we need to do as musicians, I think, is to maybe stand what the MU is saying. They've got this new sort of policy about fair play. They've produced a booklet. I highly recommend you go online to the MU website and read it, because it makes some really good points. And what they're trying to do is get musicians to kind of stand together and say, you know, look, we're not going to play for free so much. Okay, if it's a charity event, you know, there are some exceptions, but as a general rule, we do want to be rewarded for the craft, the equipment we've bought, you know, the time we've spent learning the craft, and the time we're giving up to come and play at your event. There was a gent in here earlier who said that he would never play for free. Who was that? Somebody. Would you mind telling us why? I just wondered if you'd mind kind of contributing another aspect to the argument, if you don't mind.
Well, it takes years to learn your craft. You have to buy guitar strings, you need public liability insurance, all these things cost money. Mm-hmm. And if you're not getting reimbursed, just don't do it. I limit myself to 2 charity events a year.
Right.
And that is it.
Okay, so that's quite a good example. So if you're limiting, you've set yourself a kind of a limit and a barrier, you know, a sort of border that you'll go up to, and you won't.
Fill your diary with that kind of thing. Open
yeah.
in my opinion, should be banned.
Does anyone agree? My open mic night should be banned?
You don't pay a plumber in pints, and I'm sure the landlord's not paying his VAT.
Can I disagree with that comment?
So
I've paid plenty of plumbers in pints.
I was going to say the same thing as well, Sam. I mean, I don't agree with the saturation argument to an extent, because having spent a little bit of time out of Exeter, which is refreshing recently, I came back realising that, you know, places like Bath, they don't have 2 gigs going on a Saturday night. Mm-hmm. They don't have any music going on throughout the week. And I couldn't believe it. I went to a number of pubs, and all the posters for music were either out of date or far in the future. And that was a really sad state of affairs. I went somewhere else, and it was the same story. And Exeter has actually got a lot of people willing to go out every night of the week for fantastic music of a different genre. And the thing you can do, and what we try and do with our events, is make it a value-added event where the cafe events won't suit all musicians at all times. They suit a particular type of musician that is suitable for. We can just about make that viable, but we can do another event in this space or in any other space that is also a split or, you know, some kind of thing. You know, artists need to be savvy. They need to get product ready so that, you know, if they get 3 £10 albums sold at the end of the night, that's more than their petrol costs, and it's money that, you know, is coming in. You know, you need to be coming in, and I'd be quite happy to pay a plumber in pints, and I think there is loads of.
And feed your kids on pints.
No, but no. You can encourage a network that's, you know, supportive around you, and that's what plumbers mates do. And, you know, the plumber's mates is usually, you know, a carpenter, same as the drummer's mate is often a bassist. You know, it's.
I think there's another issue here, though, between artists maybe who are just starting out. You know, they don't have the experience. They're quite
just
young.
Starting out, get paid.
Only
Say that again.
Wages. They don't.
Get paid? Oh, I don't know many that do.
It used to be 7 years of apprenticeship, and now it's significantly less. They do maybe get a, you know, a little bit of money thrown their way for the first few years, but if I was apprenticing to sound technician, I would hope that I'd get a similar sort of minimal wage. And, you know, if you wanted to apprentice yourself to a music thing, then you'd probably get a similar minimal wage for starting out.
Can we bring the mic down to the front, please? Where's Holly? There she is. Yeah, we've got a couple down the front. I think, as I was just going to say, sorry? Yeah, I was just going to bring it back. I was just going to say that I think that often people maybe forget that, you know, there's people that have been, like many in this room, playing music for many, many years, invested a lot of money in it, a lot of time in it, really honed their craft, very talented musicians, and have the experience to back it up. And then there are bands that are just maybe, you know, in their teens, just starting out. They may be very talented and gifted, but they're still learning. And at that stage, you know, I think they'll take anything they can get, and they'll take any gig they can get. And I think sometimes maybe the musicians with more experience get a bit annoyed that the bands that are just coming up are taking unpaid gigs, because then promoters and venues expect to pay everyone nothing, you know. I'm just wondering if that's an issue for anyone. But let's just go to these two people at the front who've got their hands raised first of all.
Hi. First of all, I want to say that I completely think that musicians should get paid most of the time. I'm actually arranging a charity festival at the moment, and I've made a point of not approaching any artists. Like, what I've done is I've invited artists to like my page, I've told them what we're doing and why we're doing it, and I have let people come to me. I have not approached a single artist.
Great, yeah.
I think it's really, really important that we're respectful of musicians. I think it's also really important if you're laying something on and you want musicians to pay for nothing, they need to know who else is getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
In our instance,
nobody. Could you just tell us which festival it is?
This is Oxjam.
Excellent.
Last weekend I was in Oxford for my training, so I was there for a nationwide training event with Oxjam managers from all over the country, all music lovers. We spent all night running around Oxford looking for live music, looking for any music. And we couldn't find anything.
You couldn't find any?
Eventually we found one artist in the Irish bar, and he'd come all the way down from Birmingham. There was nothing there. I think we're really, really spoiled in Exeter. I go out 6 nights a week, sometimes to 3-4 gigs in a night. I just absolutely love living here. I love our musicians. I think we've just got such a good vibe.
I think we are lucky here compared to others.
It's not like that everywhere.
No,
it's not.
Thank you. Could you pass? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to come back on a couple of things, partly the open mic thing. In the panel discussions earlier, I can't remember who it was, but I think it was, I can't remember who it was. Somebody said about musicians need to hone their craft, and we can spend all this time learning our instruments in our bedrooms and or whatever that we do, and you can actually be technically the best musician in the world, and then you can go out in front of people and not have a bloody clue how to deliver it. The
Like a
open
stage
mics
round, yeah.
give people that opportunity to learn that. So I don't agree about open mics should be banned. I think they give opportunities for a lot of people to get experience. And also, if you ban them, you're actually making performance of music exclusive to those who want to make a living from it. And a lot of musicians, lots of musicians, lots of people, no, let me finish, please. I'll let you finish. Lots of people who play music do it just because they love it. I mean, I went through a period in my life where I really went for it and was trying to make a living out of doing it, and I got to a point where actually I need to go and do something else to actually pay the bills. But it hasn't. It hasn't stopped me from gigging. I play in 2 bands. One of those bands is a function band. And no, we would never go and play for nothing because it's a function band, and we play at people's weddings and stuff. But my other band, where we play our own music, I think we've been paid for 1 gig, and I think that was one of Tom's, and he probably paid for it himself. You know,
it was good though, it was worth it.
When people were talking earlier about all the infrastructure that goes into events, and like, oh, the security get paid, the fencing gets paid, and all the rest of it, unfortunately, we live in a world where the events can't happen unless we've got all those things in place. With the Respect Festival, we are told, as a condition of the licence, we have to have X amount of security people for the X amount of people that come in through the gate. So we have no choice. Who the hell's going to come along and do security voluntarily? No one. So those guys do have to be paid, and they are making a living from it. And I think there's such a mixture. Are we saturated with musicians? I don't think so. There's maybe a saturation of people who play music, but that's surely a good thing. Music is about people communicating with each other and hopefully contributing to a much better world, and it's really necessary right now.
Thank you, Adrian. We've got just time for one more question down the front, and then I'm really sorry we're going to have to bring it to a close. That's all right. Comment.
I was just going to say that I think someone said earlier that it really depends on how much, like who's involved, the venue you're playing at, and how much money they're making, obviously if it's a charity event, etc. But like I played at a pub recently, and I'm trying to avoid pub gigs now as much, but I got invited to do it by someone that really, really liked my music, and he really wanted me to play there, and he said, I haven't really got, like I can't really offer you very much, but I can give you like a tenner, and I'll get you a really nice bottle of wine, and there's a few people that really want to see you, and it's the fact that he was really respectful and he wanted to cover my fuel, and I just think that sometimes just something is better than nothing. Like it shows that you're being respected.
It's a token of appreciation.
Yeah, and if the venue's making absolutely loads of money out of a gig that you're playing, then you definitely should get paid. But just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Jess. So as suspected, it is an area that's got many greys, shades of grey to it. But we've covered some of those today. I'm only sorry we can't carry on because I know this debate could run on and on all afternoon if we let it. So just remains for me to thank our three panellists. Thank you very much, Tom, Sam and Greg. And thank you all for your contributions.
I think
we're going to move...
We're all around. Do say hello. We're sometimes busy, but we'd love to speak to you further.
And Sam and I often have long conversations on Facebook.
Oh, Facebook, watch our conversations. It's great.
That's why I contacted them, because I've seen their rants on Facebook. No, not
we're
rants.
still sat next to each other.
Yes.
Smiling.
Intelligent debate is what I mean. Okay.
Yes.
We're going to move on now to our next panel, which is all about building the buzz. So we're going to invite our next panellists down to sit on the panel. And thank you, guys. We're just going to take a couple of minutes to change the panel over, and then we'll be right back with you.